It's the international break, which means we're all really bored. So over the next few minutes, if you want to, stick about with me as I run through 5 Ipswich Town players that I think could realistically play for England. Good morning, afternoon or evening, depending on whenever you are watching this. My name is Harvey Bell and we're going to start today's video with a little bit of trivia. Can you jump in the comments section and tell me the last Ipswich Town player to play for England whilst representing the Blues? Let's jump on with the list and we're going to start with the most obvious one, which is Leif Davis. Now, this has been debated amongst Ipswich fans for a couple of months and even wider England fans as well, because lots of people believe that this call-up should have already happened. England have an obvious shortage at left back. Lewis Hall has recently been selected for the most recent England squad, and lots of people are saying that Leif Davis should have been involved in the squad over him. Now, if I'm sitting here and being honest, I don't think that Leif Davis should have necessarily been called up to the squad yet, based on the fact that I don't think his defensive work is all there. It's improving over the last couple of weeks at Tottenham and Leicester. I think he's been far more disciplined and he's grown in that aspect. Obviously, no question marks over the fact that he's very good going forward. He's recently started to get a number of assists in the Premier League to add to all of the assists that he got in the Championship and League One. We know he flourishes in that aspect. If he can really tighten up on his defensive work, which he is starting to do, then I think come the March internationals, I would place very good money on him being involved in Thomas Tuchel's first England squad. Next up on the list, we're going to go with Liam Delap. Now, this might be a little bit reactionary based on the 10 games that we've seen him play, but from what I've seen of him in those 10 games, I think he's the long-term answer to Harry Kane. Harry Kane obviously being a natural-born goal scorer, but he's not getting any younger, and eventually England are going to have to turn away from their captain and look at somebody else for the goals to start flowing, and I think Liam Delap is the answer to that. He's been one of the most sought-after youngsters now for quite some time, and I'm really happy that Ipswich got him. For full transparency, at the time that we signed him, I wasn't overly impressed with the signing, but from the last 10 games, how wrong was I? He's been absolutely terrific. He's managed to score a number of goals, 6 so far for the season, in a side that has been struggling at the bottom end of the table, as much as I don't like to admit that. I know the performances haven't necessarily reflected that league position, but he has still got those goals, and that's really impressive. His hold-up play is good, he's got plenty of trickery, he's really fast, and he's very young, so lots to develop as well, and there's lots and lots that England fans to like about this player. I think it is only going to be a matter of time before he's in the England squad, and that's not even taking into account that he's already involved with the younger setup with England as well. So definitely keep an eye out for Liam Delap in an England shirt. Number 3, and I'm going to go with Jacob Greaves. When was the last time that you heard an England fan say that we've got too many left-sided centre-backs? Exactly, you didn't. It's an obvious shortage in the England squad at the minute. It has been for a few years now, and Jacob Greaves is exactly that. A young left-sided centre-back who is learning his trade in the Premier League in England's top flight, so it will only be a matter of time, I think, if he can continue to perform well, as he has done in his first few weeks for Ipswich Town, before he's in the England squad. It might not happen as soon as Liam Delap and Leif Davis, but I do think it is something that we can be looking at the prospect in the near future. He didn't necessarily have the best last couple of games before he went off injured, but in the opening few games, he looked like a real unit. He's obviously very athletic. He's got bags and bags of potential, very physical, and he could be the natural partner to go alongside who I believe will be our next captain in John Stones. Number 2, I'm going with Amari Hutchinson. And if I just said that Jacob Greaves is a little way off, then I still think Amari Hutchinson is quite a way off. But I'm very sure that he is going to get there at some point. I just don't think yet. And I think Amari Hutchinson is blessed in the sense that he plays in a position where England naturally have a high turnover of players in. If you look at the 2018 World Cup, we had Jesse Lingard and Dele Alli as our sort of attacking players, and those players that were very interchangeable within the squad. You then look at going into the Euros, and it's players like Marcus Rashford, James Maddison has had a stint in the England squad, and it is in that position where you generally tend to see lots more players being given different opportunities. I think most recently you could look at the likes of Morgan Rogers getting in the squad, and I'm not saying that's not deserved, but what I'm saying is there is far more players that get an opportunity in that position than perhaps they do in the defence. I mean, these players might get called up, but it's actually the ones in Amari Hutchinson's position that get those minutes in the friendlies and in the Nations League to really prove themselves. So I don't think it's necessarily a question of Amari Hutchinson eventually getting in the England squad. It's more a question of when is he going to get that opportunity and can he nail it down. Now, I do think this is a long way off. I still think he's got a lot of improvement to do with Ipswich. He was a bit of a slow starter when he first came to Ipswich on loan, but towards the end of the season started to pick up. I don't think he's necessarily started this season off particularly quickly, but again, like Leif Davis's defensive work over the last couple of weeks, I've really started to see him flourish. I only expect him to keep getting better. And as he matures, as he's started to show that he is, I think he will eventually start to break in to that England team, and I do think that he's going to be a top level Premier League player. It's just about getting that consistency, and when he gets that England chance, because he's already involved with the youngsters, he is in that setup, and that's massively beneficial. Of course, the England manager at the minute is Lee Carsley. He's going to go back to working with the youngsters, so he'll be in charge of Amari Hutchinson. Who knows what happens the next time that England are looking for a manager? If it does come to fruition again that Lee Carsley does go back in charge for however many games it might be, then Amari Hutchinson is going to be known to the manager. I definitely do think that Amari Hutchinson has lots and lots of potential. I think he's improving every single week. I think he's going to continue to improve. He's only going to get better. And I don't really see a world where in the next 5 years, Amari Hutchinson doesn't get into the England squad, barring obviously any major injury. And the final one, which might be a little bit out there, but I'm going to go with George Hurst. And this one is obviously going to have to happen sooner rather than later. He's still quite young, George Hurst, but for strikers to really have an impact at England, they've got to get in young. He hasn't had the experience necessarily with the England youth setup, which is a bit of a downside to him. And he's not necessarily getting loads of minutes with Ipswich at the minute. But he's a natural born goal scorer. I said earlier when I was talking about Liam Delap that England are always going to need goals. George Hurst can deliver exactly that. He's really started to show that in recent years. I know early in his career he wasn't scoring loads and loads of goals. He got that loan switch to Portsmouth, the goals started flowing. He came to Ipswich, the goals have started flowing even more. If he can get into the team, break into the team and form a partnership with Delap, or even claim the one starting striker spot in Kieran McKenna's system and start scoring goals regularly in the top flight, then of course that's going to turn heads. His overall play is really good as well, and he could be a very useful squad option for England. I don't think, if I'm being honest, being sat here, he's going to be England's long-term solution to Harry Kane. I don't think he's necessarily going to be England's world's best player. But if you look at the likes of Callum Wilson, Tammy Abraham, who have got into the squad in recent years, they're not necessarily the world's best players, but they are players that are handy at international level. They're players that know where the back of the net is, and they're players that do have good upturns in form from time to time and can be real threats if they're utilised correctly. And I think over time, that's what George Hurst can be. Ultimately, everybody on this list has a chance of playing for England. Everybody on this list may be a little bit of a way away at the minute, but this is really just a video to say that these are players that do have qualities and do have potential that I think one day could play for England. Let me know down in the comments if you agree, and really this is just a nice way to come on and have some Ipswich Town content during an international break. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Thanks so much for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.